Hello, I'm Shay, and this is K-Pop Corner. Today on K-Pop Corner, I'll be talking about my top 20 K-pop albums that I own. Because I couldn't rank any of these albums because they're all my favorite, I instead just put them in alphabetical order by album name. Of course, if I just did my favorite K-pop albums of all time, then there would be way more on the list. So I just narrowed it down to the ones I own. The criteria I use to rank these top 20 albums is not only the songs, but the packaging and the overall theme of the albums. The first album on the list is B by BTS. B came out on November 20th, 2020. I feel like this album gets overlooked a lot, even by BTS Army, because it comes after the release of Dynamite, which is also included on B's track list. I love this album so much because not only is the packaging pretty neat and unique, the BTS members all played a certain role in the making of the album. Plus, this album has songs like Disease, Life Goes On, Telepathy, Blue and Gray, Fly to My Room, Stay. Its track list is top tier. And because the members all played a role in the making of the album, you feel a certain connection to the album. Like, this came out during the pandemic when artists couldn't tour. So I think a lot of what they were feeling went into the album. And you can hear that in the songs. Next on the list is Born Jean by Kim Jae-jung. This album was released on September 13th, 2022. And I have to say, I love the colors used in this album. The purple and yellow really go well together. And I love the inclusions that it came with, which I take out of the album. I actually have some of it just on display in my room. That's how much I like it. My favorite songs from this album are Nobody Like You, Broken Mirror, and Walking on Water. And also In the Rain. I love that song too. I think this was the perfect album to reintroduce him back into the Korean music industry after all that happened with his previous company, which I won't mention in this video at least, and just being able to promote this album in Korea is such a big deal because him and the other JYJ members were blocked from doing that for such a long time. Fun fact about me, I got into K-pop in 2010, which was when all the legal battles were going on. So that was like my first taste of how corrupt the Korean music industry can be. And that was traumatizing for teenage me. But he's definitely my favorite male solo artist from Korea. So, and later on the list, there's going to be another album I talk about that's by him. Now we're going down the alphabet to the D's. So the next album I'm going to talk about is Dark and Wild by BTS. Okay, I'm not going to lie, I don't really like the concept photos for this album, but what I do love about this album is the lyrics page, where it looks like they scribbled notes or annotations on the lyrics. And I also love the fact that it's a magnetic closed album, so it's easy to snap close and snap open. And it's a pretty sturdy album. Like, I don't worry about getting dents or scratches on it. What really put this album in the top 20 of the albums I own is the songs. This was my first comeback as a BTS ARMY, and every time I listen to it, I just remember the build up they had for it and just feeling so satisfied on that first listen. And what's unique about this album is that it's a standalone album. It's not part of any trilogy from BTS's discography. So you can really tell that they really just focused on the music and not really um, connecting it to their overarching storyline. And I feel like this album really showcases their talents. It had hard-hitting raps while also good R&B songs like Rain and Let Me Know. This album really had me at the first note of the intro, What Am I to You? And really the main theme of this album is it's written on the front of it. It says, love hurts, it causes anger, jealousy, obsession. Why don't you love me back? And so really throughout all the songs you hear this either anger or longing for love. And this is going to be the last point I make, but you can really tell that this album sort of bridges between um, the BTS school trilogy and their next trilogy, which is The Most Beautiful Moment in Life. So you can hear that they're coming more into their sound. Next is D-Day by August D. Now, while I don't really care for the layout of the album, like its packaging, I love the concept and the concept photos. Even though this is his first physical release of his music, you can really tell that the concept from the concept photos that it kind of brings all of his work together. Like you can definitely feel this is like the conclusion of a certain phase of work that he's going through. And the track list for D-Day is so amazing. I love how it starts with D-Day and the first line is future's gonna be okay. I think we all need to hear that sometimes. This is no hyperbole when I say that August D is my favorite rapper of all time right now. Every song on the album has a purpose, and even the way that it's situated in the album really flows well. And what I love most is that the lyrics get you really thinking. The Dream Chapter Magic by TXT is next on the list. Now, for this, I was contemplating whether I wanted Magic or Eternity to be the album I talk about, but I ended up going with Magic just because I do like more of the songs on Magic. But I have to say, packaging wise, for some reason, the Dream Chapter has the best packaging out of all of TXT's albums. I love the magic concept that TXT has, like a sort of dreamy, almost, well, Disney looking concept. And it also carries on into their songs. Like they literally have a track that has 9 3/4 in it. So, of course, the Harry Potter fan I am, I love that song. Next is the only album on this list that starts with F, and that's First Sensibility by BAP. Now, while the packaging looks extremely cool and I love it, it's not the sturdiest album, even though it has the magnetic snap closure that I like. And I got this album secondhand, so it had damages on the corners. But other than that, I love the concept of this album and also the music. Some of my favorite songs are on this album, like Angel and Lovesick, and also Save Me. It's just a pretty solid album all around, and I find myself going back to listen to the album in full a lot. This next album holds a dear spot in my heart, and that's Hua Young Young Hua Part 2, or The Most Beautiful Moment in Life Part 2. This album was the first BTS album I ever purchased, and it's what got me into the rabbit hole of collecting BTS albums and merch. This album is the second installment of their official storyline, and it's, of course, part of the trilogy of The Most Beautiful Moment in Life. I love the concept of this album and the photos. It's definitely a more dreamier type of concept that we are getting from BTS with this trilogy. And I love the photos for part two, and also the music for part two is top notch. The intro and outro, like, need I say more? And then we have songs like Butterfly, Pepsi, and Walian 52, which are like staples in the BTS discography. I have two I albums, and we will start with Indigo by RM. Now, this album has such a cool concept, and the songs are again top tier, and they really go with the concept. While I don't really like the packaging choice for this album because it's easy to get dents and damage it, I love how the contents are like things you could buy from an art gallery's gift shop. My favorite part is the photo book, which is set up like a book you would get at the art gallery that kind of explains the art pieces. So it's set up like that. And I think that's such a cool idea to use in a musical album. While I do have to be in a certain mood to listen to the whole album, I love the songs Yun, Still Life, and Closer. Next is In Heaven by JYJ. This is another album where I had to get it secondhand, but even then, it's still in perfect condition. I have to say that I like the album's packaging better than I like the concept photos. The concept photos are fine. I just thought that since it's called In Heaven, they would go with a more lighter concept and like main colors that they use. Instead, they went with a more dark concept. I can't reiterate enough how much I love the track list for this album. It has songs like Get Out, In Heaven, Fallen Leaves, Mission, Piero, Your, and Nine. Just naming a few that I love from this album. Continuing with the artist JYJ, the next album on the list is Just Us by JYJ. Now, this album has beautiful packaging. I love the flowers, I love the colors of the album, and I love how it opens. And it has my favorite magnetic closure. I also love this track list. Some of my favorite songs are Creation, Let Me See, So So, and Letting Go. Like, the B-sides of this album are top tier. And I feel like the concept for this album compared to In Heaven is more fleshed out. You can tell that just everything goes well together. From the packaging to the photos, even the CD itself is so pretty. There are 3 albums that start with L on this list, and I'm going to start with Layover by V. This album is definitely the most recent album that's on my list since it literally came out last month. And I have to say, I love the packaging for this album and also the concept of Layover. I can really see why he went to New Jeans Company to flesh out the concept and how they were going to promote this album because it goes so well all together. I love how the packaging is very personalized to V. We literally have his dog on the album cover and also as an insert in the album. Although the music in this album is pretty similar to each other, I think it's a good debut album for V because his style is the least like BTS's music. So it was very interesting to hear the music he's always wanted to create. And also, I really love this genre of music. My favorite songs are Blue, For Us, and Rainy Days. Next is the album that I've been looking for a while that I happened to find at the Half Price bookstore, and that's Lilac by IU. I have the Hylac version of the album, and I love the colors that's used here. I love that the album is a magnetic closed album, and the photo book is so pretty. Just everything about this is really pretty and really goes with the lilac concept. Lilac is actually my favorite song from the album, and it's what got me into IU as an artist. And I have to say, she's probably my favorite female artist right now. I recently got to see her Golden Hour concert in the movie theaters, and I was blown away. I love her style, her music, and her lyrics, and also how she delivers the lyrics. I even ended up buying the DVD for the Golden Hour because why not? Next is the album nominated by the Grammys for its packaging, and that's Love Yourself Tear by BTS. This album is the second installment for their trilogy Love Yourself. I was so obsessed with this album when it came out. Like, so many good songs are on here. From Singularity, Fake Love, Mic Drop, Paradise, Airplane Part 2, Magic Shop, Love Maze. Like, there's just so many good songs on here. It's definitely one of BTS's best full-length albums to date. I don't have much to say about the packaging, but it's definitely one of my favorites. I love when the photo book is like the main thing, and I love how they have the CD on the cardboard to protect it. It's just the Love Yourself series is just very cohesive, I would say. And that's what I like about the packaging. It's very cohesive packaging. It's not too awkward between, uh, like, say, for instance, the Most Beautiful Moment in Life trilogy. Its compilation album definitely doesn't fit with the other albums. Although I love the packaging for Young Forever, it just doesn't really go with the other 3. While for this trilogy, they really go together and look so nice displayed together in a row. Now we are on to the M albums, and the next album on that list is Map of the Soul 7. The only complaint I have about the packaging of this album is the size of it. I feel like it's way too big. Like, if they made it a little bit smaller, then it would have been perfect. And also, the photo book was kind of confusing. But other than that, I love the concept photos for the album, and the photo cards for this set of albums were really good. Now, there are theories that Map of the Soul was supposed to be a trilogy in the BTS discography, but because of certain circumstances, it was kind of summed up into Map of the Soul 7. And what I really love about this album's track list is that the intro, interlude, and outro are all songs. My only complaint is that since this is technically a repackaged album, they could have included Home and Microcosmos. Like, come on. I don't think any of us would have complained. So that was kind of a letdown. And can we appreciate just how good BTS's full length studio albums are? Okay, I know that so many of these albums have been like BTS or one of the BTS members, but this next album is not. It's called Melting by Mamamoo. To me, this album is the best album on Mamamoo's discography. And while the packaging isn't anything special, I love the concept photos and the music of this album. And while I don't really listen to Mamamoo much anymore, I always go back to listen to this album every so often. My favorite tracks are the first track, which I can't say, and also Words Don't Come Easy and I Miss You. The next album on the list is No X or Nox, I don't know how it's pronounced, by Kim Jae-jung. And this is his second album. The packaging is pretty simple. It's much better than his first album, and I love the photos and the concept of this album. I think this second album definitely merged his rock sound with the type of vocalist he was in JYJ and TVXQ. For me, this is definitely a no skip album with, I think, my most favorite song being Breathing. If you like good rock vibes in your music, definitely give this album a listen. Okay, I have 4 more albums left, and I won't spend too long on this album because technically it only brings a few new songs to it, and that's Proof by BTS. Now, I'm gonna admit it now. The main reason why I have this album on the list is that it's an anthology, and not many artists get to do anthologies of their work. Also, we finally get Born Singer as an official release, which is something armies have wanted for so long. I actually don't really like the packaging for any of the proofs, whether it's the original edition that first came out, the compact edition, or the collector's edition. I just don't like any of them. The collector's edition is way too heavy. The, uh, I guess, standard edition, I forgot what it's called, but that is a bit weird trying to get all the stuff out. And then the compact edition, it's very simple. I guess it's my favorite edition out of all of them. Even though they didn't add many songs to this album, I really love the songs that they added, like Yet to Come, Run BTS, and For Youth. Those were my most listened to tracks of the whole year last year. And really, this is just an album that is a cause of celebration for ARMY. Lehi's Soullight is the next album we'll be talking about. At one time, Lehi was my most favorite female artist, and I remember listening to, I have two of her albums, and I remember listening to them all the time, and I really love the packaging for Soullight. The concept is just so pretty. I even have the little poster that it came with hanging on my wall. And the music is really fun to listen to. I love her voice and how she sings. And while I don't really follow her anymore, this still is one of my favorite albums of all time. The next album I'll talk about is Who, When, Why by Kim Jae-jung, and it's his first album. I almost didn't include this album on the list. I don't know why, because when I looked at the songs on there, I'm like, oh, I have to include this. The packaging is definitely not my favorite. You can definitely mess up the packaging easily. Luckily, I haven't messed up mine that much, but I love the gold color and the gold and white concept that he went with. This album is definitely a more rock album than his second album, which is something I really love about it. Some of my favorite songs on here is Paradise, Butterfly, Just Another Girl, and Let the Rhythm Flow. Fun fact, this is the first album I've ever bought with my own money. And I remember I was a freshman in college at the time, and I took his poster from the album and hung it in my closet because it was the only like personal space I had in my dorm room. So yeah, he would just be hanging on the closet, and I would see him every time I had to get ready for school. Really, that freshman closet that I had became a little K-pop decoration area for me. And the last album on the list is You Never Walk Alone by BTS. This is the repackage of Wings by BTS, but I had to include just the repackage because it has my most favorite song of all time, Spring Day, on it. Packaging wise, I really love it, even though it's really simple. I love that it's a hardcover book type packaging, and the concept photos are so cute and really fit the theme. Like Map of the Soul 7, it's a pretty hefty album just because it's a repackage. And like all other full length albums, it's a really strong album. This is the first time that we're seeing solos from all of BTS members on one album. And also, I love how they teased this album with short films. It was such a clever idea to not only introduce the solo songs, but also the whole concept and theme of Wings and You Never Walk Alone.